When you experience burnout, YouTube burnout. Grandma's porch, a place to relax, a place to enjoy. Come visit Grandma's porch. Burnout, YouTube burnout. When you feel like you're burned out in any area of life. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. Well, I did a 5-mile run this morning as I normally do. It's a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'm getting ready to go to the gym. And I thought, well, I wanted to pop on here and talk about burnout, especially YouTube burnout. And so I did my 5-mile run, and I came home and I realized I had a college paper to do. As y'all know, I go to college at age 63. Full-time, and it was a paper that wasn't due yet, but it was coming up and I wanted to get it done. So it was a very detailed paper, and so I had to sit down for a couple hours and write up this paper. So now I'm heading off to the gym, and I wanted to talk to you about burnout. You know, we can experience burnout in any area of life, not just here on YouTube. I remember I had a job many, many years ago, and it was a job I absolutely loved. So we can actually experience burnout even with areas of our lives that we love. And sometimes we have to step back, as with that situation. So I was working, and they had scheduled me like 18 days in a row because it was a big event. And this is many years ago. And I remember I was so tired and so exhausted. Even though I loved what I was doing, I loved my job. But the fact is, I needed more rest and relaxation time than I was getting. And I remember at work, I went into the bathroom and I just started sobbing. And I didn't know why, because I was happy, I loved my job, everything was good. But I was just exhausted. I was burnt out, even from something good. So I think it was the next day or so that I had a few days off, and then I felt recharged and rejuvenated and all ready to get back to work. And so sometimes when we wear ourselves out, or we're pulled in too many different directions, often we'll become burnout, at least in one of those areas. And often the area that we become burnt out in is one that we've been doing repetitiously over and over and over. And maybe we're even at a place where we're stagnating in it, and we feel like we're not growing for the moment. And so we get frustrated, and in turn we feel burnt out, when really we're just kind of frustrated. But sometimes we are burnt out. Sometimes we're dedicating so much time. Other times we can just keep right on going and never experience burnout. I don't think burnout is something that we have to experience, even when we do things over and over and over, especially things that we love. I think sometimes we burn out because A, we're tired, B, maybe it's starting to lack its importance in our life that it once had, because when something's really important, we tend not to get burnt out. But sometimes when we get to a place where we're kind of bored with it, or we're kind of wanting to make some kind of change, or we feel stagnant in it and we feel like we're not moving forwards the way we should, sometimes we will experience what we think is burnout when it's really not. And yet burnout can come. It can happen when we're tired, worn out, and exhausted, or we are doing something that we don't want to do. Now, burnout has a very low threshold when we are doing something that we don't want to do. It has a high threshold when we're doing what we we love. So for me, for example, I had a high threshold when I worked 18 days in a row. I was just tired. I just needed some time off because I loved what I did. But I've had jobs where I had burnout like the first day because I didn't like what I was doing. And so for me, if I didn't like a job, normally I quit it pretty quickly and found one that I loved, because I believe that our workplace is like a relationship. And if you're in a situation that you cannot improve upon, or you don't want to improve upon, or you're never going to improve upon, or it can't be improved upon, sometimes we're going to get burnout. So I think that there's different reasons for burnout, and sometimes we're really not burnout, we're just tired, and sometimes we are frustrated. Maybe we're not going in the direction that we feel that we should be, or going as quickly, and so that's really not exactly burnout, that's more frustration. But when we experience true burnout, that means that we're just, we're just overwhelmed and tired and overloaded, and all of those emotions. Often the best thing we can do is to step back. Don't make any clear-cut decisions, but step back, rest, recharge yourself. So sometimes we've just got to step back, regroup. And often in burnout, people make wrong decisions because they're like, oh, I'm going to throw this job away. I'm really burnt out from it. Or I'm going to throw this relationship away. Or I'm going to throw this situation away because I'm just tired of it. When truly, they just need to step back and rest and recharge. I'm a firm believer in, when we make important decisions, to give an important decision at least a week in there before we act on it in most circumstances. Sometimes we got to act on it right away, and yet often we have that leeway of having some time in there, and often we will see a major decision a lot differently in 1 week's time, and if we still see it the same way, then likely it is the right decision. Either way, I try to give myself about 7 days of resting on that important decision, especially if it were to come to a job or burnout in some area of my life. So with YouTube, recently I've kind of experienced burnout. And I'm not sure if it's frustration or burnout or what, because we all went through that big purge, and then it was like climbing a mountain to grow again. Even though I'm growing, it's not at the pace that I once grew at, because now people have to really come in there and watch all of your content pretty much for us to keep them as a new friend. And so a lot of times people don't have time to watch a 20-minute video. They'll watch 10 minutes of it or whatever. So at what portion we get actually credit for them watching it, I don't really know, and I'm not quite sure how all that works. And yet it can be frustrating. So is that true burnout? I don't think I'm really burnt out of YouTube, but I think sometimes I need to step back. I make a lot of content, which takes a lot of time. I have a busy life. I have other things that I love to do and spend my time at, especially my family, my exercise, my schoolwork. So it's easy to make something burnout in one area in order to have more time for another. But I don't think that's a good way to do it. I think sometimes we just have to proportion our time a little bit differently that we're giving to whatever it is that we're feeling burned out in. And so for me, sometimes, with trying to grow our channels and produce content and do live streams and go up on other people's panels and answer comments, and I love all of it. I love answering comments. I love going up on other people's panels. I love all of that. And yet sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and we can just get exhausted, and we feel like we don't have room in our lives for all the other things that we want. And I think sometimes when we don't feel like we have room in our life, in our lives for the other things that we want, often we will consider that a time of burnout, when really, indeed, it's not. We just have to proportion our time differently. So what I'm doing with my YouTube channel is I'm just having fun with it. I'm just putting up content as I can. Some days I might not put up any content. Other days I might put up a lot of content. It just depends. Some days I might put up one piece of content, other days 5 pieces. Sometimes I may go on other people's live streams. Sometimes I may not for a long period of time. It just is what works well for me. And I think when we push and push and push ourselves, especially when it's an uphill, sometimes we have to take time out to rest, recharge, relax, and not throw everything away because, well, we're having a frustrating day or we're having what we consider a burnout day. Sometimes the best thing we we can do before we act on any decision is to take time with that decision and let it rest, like I said before. And other times we just need to rest, recharge, relax, regroup, and go do something else. And then we come back with a fresh, clear perspective. And so that's what I do. Like today, I'm going to the gym. I could stand here and make 5 or 10 videos and put them in the queue so that I have them. But I'd rather go to the gym. I'd rather spend time with my family. And then I'll come back and in my own leisure, make my videos. And in my own leisure, do a live stream when I feel like it. Or in my own leisure, you know, however I want to do my YouTube channel. I love my YouTube channel. I love being here. But I don't want to experience burnout by putting myself into overload. And so I lessen up my way of doing things, and I'm more flexible so that I don't experience burnout. So by recharging, resting, doing something else, taking time out for me, not putting all the excess demands and obligations and must-dos, or feeling like I've got to climb that ladder faster than maybe I should or can, often will help reduce that burnout. And so I think we can all experience burnout in any area of life, including YouTube. And so sometimes all we need to do is step back, rest, recharge, relax, and sometimes go do something else. So I'm headed for the gym. So from my house to yours, may God bless you. And I hope to talk to you all soon again. Bye-bye. Porch, a place to relax and a place to enjoy.